The first run I ever took alone did not start with danger, that it started with a screen full of numbers and a feeling that something was already off. 141 crates, 3 shy of maxing out my holder hydrogen fuel and bio-waste necessity. Cargo's the kind you take when there are no better options and no one left to ask for advice. This was my first real solo contract, Roustem System, Soloviev Settlement, a simple delivery to Pippin Gateway in the Metzili system. Nothing special on paper, but paper does not fly the ship. I had pre-planned my route and commenced my pre-flight checks before launch. I requested takeoff clearance. To my surprise, they granted this rookie the clearance. Boy, if they only knew they were giving clearance to a future cargo tycoon, huh? I moved through the routine the way I had been taught, purchased the cargo, checked the manifest, plot the route. Everything looked fine at first glance. That should have been my first warning. Lifting off is supposed to be routine, but every launch still feels like a test. One mistake, and the run ends before it begins. The ship climbed, system steady. But my focus was not on the stars ahead. It was on everything that could still go wrong. Takeoff is the moment where preparation either holds or exposes what you missed out here. Even leaving the ground demands respect, yet space does not. Care how ready you think you are. I rushed one thing that it felt minor, the kind of detail experienced pilots gloss over without thinking. I was not experienced. I was about to be reminded of that. Experience has a way of making simple things feel automatic. I told myself I had done this 100 times before, even if most of those times were watching someone else. Cargo loaded. Route plotted. Systems green. It felt close enough as where mistakes like to hide. I wanted this run to be uneventful. No corrections, no delays, no reminders that I was still new at this. I convinced myself that confidence could stand in for preparation. The black has a way of correcting that assumption, quietly and without mercy. A warning came before the first jump. Out of fuel range, no pirates, no alarms, just a quiet system message forcing me to stop and reconsider. I felt frustration first, then doubt. Then humility, something that would stay with me. I had a choice. If you could call it that, I could turn back or I could adapt. You cannot become a tycoon by freezing every time the plan breaks. I replotted the route and committed. Replotting a route felt simple enough. A few clicks, a confirmation, a quiet acceptance that the plan had already changed. I told myself this was normal. Adjustments happen. Experienced pilots do this without thinking. I was thinking about it a little too much. The ship moved again and space settled back into motion. That familiar hum returned. It should have been reassuring. Instead, it reminded me how alone every decision really is once a station disappears behind you. I thought about Elias in moments like this, how he never rushed, how he always paused before committing to a route, not out of fear, but respect for distance, fuel, and the things you cannot see coming. Necessity cargo is honest work, no prestige, no story attached to it. Just weight and responsibility. Hydrogen fuel and bio-waste do not care who you are or what you want to become. They only care that you deliver them intact. Confidence is quiet when it is real. Doubt is loud when it is earned. I could feel both sitting with me in the cockpit, one reminding me why I took the run, the other listing everything I had overlooked. There is a moment after a decision where you stop second-guessing and simply commit. That moment does not feel heroic. It feels quiet, like accepting that whatever happens next belongs to you. The delay bothered me more than I expected, not because of time, but because it exposed how thin my preparation really was. One missed detail had already rewritten the run. I knew better than to ignore that lesson. The new route worked, but it came at a cost, time, and something else happened. An accidental emergency disengaged near STKM-1367. No damage. Just another reminder that I was still learning the hard way. Space has a way of stretching time. Minutes feel longer when there is nothing to distract you from your own thoughts. I replayed the route in my head, not to change it, but to understand how easily I had trusted it the first time. I realized how much of my confidence came from familiarity rather than mastery. Watching others run cargo had felt like experience, but sitting alone in the cockpit proved the difference. Observation teaches patterns. Responsibility teaches consequences. Somewhere between the stars and the destination, I stopped worrying about the delay. The run was already doing its job, stripping away assumptions, forcing me to slow down, reminding me that every pilot earns their discipline one correction at a time. Everything slowed down when I dropped into the Metzili system. I stared at the arrival star longer than I needed to, watching traffic move in every direction, wondering what the other ships were hauling, what lives were unfolding behind those hulls, and how obvious it must have been that I was still a rookie. Moments like that make your thoughts wander. I kept coming back to the same question. Where had Elias gone? Why disappear without a word and leave his ship in my name? Some debts are heavier than cargo. I watched other ships pass through Super Cruise, brief flashes of motion, each one carrying its own destination and its own problems. I wondered how many of those pilots were making adjustments they did not plan for today. Super Cruise always feels like the universe holding its breath. The station is still distant, yet already pulling at me. I watched the distance fall away and reminded myself to stay disciplined. No shortcuts, no rushing, not this close to the finish. I checked my alignment and let the ship settle. Hands steady, mind steady. The run had been simple on paper and heavier in practice. I could feel the station ahead like a judgment, not of skill, but of focus. A world drifted past my right canopy, blue and whole, wrapped in slow-moving clouds, the kind of place people talk about when they forget how harsh space can be. It pulled at my attention in a way cargo never does, quiet, patient, inviting. I wondered what it would be like to touch ground there, real ground, to take my first shore leave somewhere untouched by schedules and manifests. A place that does not measure you by profit or precision, just by the fact that you showed up alive. The thought lingered longer than it should have, temptation disguised as rest. I marked the world in memory and stayed on course. There will be time for beauty later. Right now the run still mattered, purpose first, freedom after. I found myself staring longer than I needed to, awed by the scale, the order, the quiet confidence of it. This was not the Frontier Depot I grew up around. This was permanence. And for the first time, I wondered what it would take to earn a place somewhere like this. Pippin Gateway filled the canopy slowly, larger than it needed to be, quieter than I expected. I guided the ship in without rushing, every movement deliberate now. This run had already taught me what haste costs. I was not arriving victorious. I was arriving aware. I handed control over and let the ship guide itself, not out of laziness, but respect. Traffic moved with quiet precision, ships sliding through the mail slot like they belonged there. I watched closely, absorbing the rhythm, learning how order replaces instinct inside places like this. The interior opened up around me, massive and contained at the same time. Lights tracing paths meant to prevent mistakes before they happen. Auto-dock carried me deeper while I stayed alert. Landing pad 25 came into view, and I felt the run finally settle, engines adjusted. Descent controlled. I let the systems finish what I had started, trusting the process, trusting the lesson. Today was not about proving skill. It was about arriving intact and ready to learn what comes next. The ship was quiet now, systems cooling, cargo delivered. I thought about how easily this run could have gone differently. One more rush check, one ignored warning. Space does not punish recklessness loudly. It simply waits for you to repeat it. I did not intend to give it that chance. Somewhere out there, Elias was still a question without an answer. The frontier still waited, and the blue world I passed would still be there when the time was right. For now, I logged the run, shut the ship down, and prepared for whatever lesson came next.